this on behalf of the city. And we ask for these things in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Dixon and Councilmember Schwab. We appreciate that very much. We'll move forward with item number 3, our public presentation. Residents attending this meeting will be allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any of these issues. Do we have anyone that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our next item on here for item 4, upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch that will be May 28th of 2025 over at the barn. We've had an increased attendance in that, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. We have our music circle that will be on May 25th at the barn at 7 o'clock. We have.
They actually canceled that because it happens to be Memorial Day. So
Let's cancel that one then. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Call. We have our candidacy filling period for June 2nd through the 6th. And that is from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on that particular day. So we've got an opening for the mayor position and 2 openings for the city council. So anyone that would like to apply for that. The music circle is again on June 23rd. That will be at the barn at 7 p.m. We have our senior lunch bunch in June, just plan ahead for June of 25. And that'll be at 11:30 a.m. And we have West Haven Days that'll be coming up very quickly on June 23rd through the 28th this year. So that'll be at the Kenneth Baldwin Park on 3300 South and about 2885 West, somewhere right in there. So any questions on any of the upcoming events?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I was just going to mention the ribbon cutting on the 15th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
For the Poulter Pond, might be worth noting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just going to get to that one on the upcoming events
Oh,
for the council.
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's no
I
problem.
didn't mean to.
No problem. So we'll move to item 8 on council updates. So would you like to cover that one?
No, I think I said too much already.
Oh, you did.
You're good. No.
Oh, you did great. No, we do have the ribbon cutting coming up at the Poulter Pond. So we're excited for that one. I think tomorrow they'll be getting some other things ready. The pond is really coming along well. And so we're pretty excited about that. But please, as a community, please watch for that. We'll have the information out there for you to come and attend and be part of that.
So is the Poulter Pond ribbon cutting the 15th or? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll have that coming up and there'll be more information on, and it'll be about 6 o'clock, I think is when we're planning on doing. So we have some other ribbon cuttings coming up too that I'll be sending out to the council to get taken care of. We've got a couple other businesses that we'll be doing that on. I wanted to also thank the events committee and especially Jeff Reed on what a fantastic job they did on the Touch a Truck. I think it's getting busier and busier every year. It was cold outside and people still had a blast and the kids loved it. So congratulations on that. It was a fantastic event overall. We also had the playground ribbon cutting. We had last night, was it? I'm trying to remember. I've been reading so much. Last night, and it was great. We had a lot of kids that were there. I think the playground, there were so many kids on there, they were running into each other. It's a busy park, and I think it's one thing that the kids have been so excited to get on that playground. It's really a nice one. So thanks, council, for getting that to the community. Really appreciate your efforts on that, and it's turned out really nice. And thanks to the staff for getting it organized and done. Is there anything else on council updates that you'd like to share with the public?
I'll just mention Saturday we had Arbor Day, beautification committee in connection with Troop 191 helped the city in replacing some of the trees that had died in the parks, and the mayor was there and really appreciate the staff for their work on that, and especially the scout troop, the young men that were there did a good job. I don't even think we lifted a shovel. They did all the work. So it was really cool to see that and to see their involvement.
Well, thanks.
So I wanted to thank them.
Thanks, Councilmember Saunders, for getting organized and everything. We appreciate your work on that. He's over the beautification committee as a chair and kind of as a liaison for that position. So it's really helpful to have him there. Okay, anything else?
Yes. Parks and Trails Committee is gaining traction. We've been working with Brock and Steven. They're working on a master plan right now, and so we're waiting for that master plan to come back to develop a framework of what that committee will be. And we also have a couple residents that have also reached out and asked to be a part of that, so we're excited to get that rolling.
Good. I have another person for you too.
Send them over.
Fantastic. Thank you for getting that going. We're excited about that. That'll add to our committees for sure. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on to our our next item on here. Let's see, our action on our consent agenda. I don't think I've seen one this small for so long. This is our special city council minutes that we had on April 28th. We had to jump out of our normal to get some other things done within the city. So that's what we have on our consent agenda. Is there any changes on the minutes or anything for that meeting? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the special city council meetings or minutes for the meeting held on April 28th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this item? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Call.
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7, our public hearing for the purpose of soliciting public input on amending the consolidated fee schedule regarding adjusting user fees for the barn, community center, and additional garbage cans. We'll get a little preview to that from our city manager and just give us any briefing on that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been an item that we've discussed over multiple city council meetings, and it is for public hearing tonight. What's generally proposed is and contemplated is an increase in rental fees of the barn for residents and non-residents, and ultimately you as a council can decide what you think is appropriate. A part of the rationale behind this was looking at what the costs were for other municipalities who provided a like service, and not necessarily being the lowest option, especially as it related to non-residents. The city and Nielsen Homes partnered on the project, and the final product I think is a great product. It has nice finishes and will require some upkeep, and there's still some investment that needs to continue on with that property to make it realize its full potential. And so for those reasons, we felt like those were significant enough to at least bring to your attention what the fees are and what they could be, and still be within what's reasonable with surrounding venues provided by cities. The other item, council member Swap discussed the concept of doing an all-day rental, and I did put a fee together, and the rationale is in the staff report, and I essentially did the total hours that it was available and discounted it by, I think it was either 10 or 20%. I think it might have only been 10%. So again, that number is something that you guys can decide what you think would be appropriate if you do want to do a day rental. I did note in my staff report that I do think there's value in my mind, because the facility is in demand. In my mind, it makes sense to try to not necessarily incentivize people for using it longer, but try to allow more people use. And so the day rental concept might incentivize, fewer users, but encourage longer use. So again, it just really depends on what your goals are for that facility. The other thing that I'd just bring your attention to is that it does include one of the changes that you're seeing in this resolution that, again, you can consider, is the concept of city employees having the opportunity to use the facility one time without a charge, and that would include elected officials as well, permanent part-time employees. And it's not uncommon for cities to offer in-kind benefits that it has for those types of individuals. I think part of the rationale is it promotes pride in their workplace, especially the barn. I think the barn is something to be proud of and is a great amenity. And so allowing them to use it one time, again, may be appropriate. The last thing that is on this fee schedule that I believe is worth noting is a change in the length of time that would be required for an individual requesting an additional garbage can, which would be 12 months. And so what this would prevent is from someone just for using it during the peak season when the tipping fees and the volume of trash is going to be high. That kind of allowing for a duration of a year will smooth out, that the impact of individuals just using it at their convenience for when they have the busiest garbage accumulating or generating months for them. So.
Okay. Great explanation. Council, do you have questions about any of this?
I have a question about that second can. Is there provisions in there if someone moves and a new family moves in? I mean, what do we do in that situation?
Good question. I'm glad you asked. I do believe there's allowance to waive that. I think it might be a footnote. Let me see if I can find that. Shares. Oops.
Seemed like that question came up before too. It's a great question. And it seemed like there was a waiver, just a waiver of fees if there was something that came up like that.
Oh, I think that's what it is. I think it reverts back to that general notion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the very front of the consolidated fee schedule, there's some general rules and framework where fees can be applied or reduced based upon those types of situations, unique situations.
Perfect, thank you.
I think it's just referencing 1.3 on there. On dispute. Anything else? Question wise? Okay, we can move into our public hearing. If we're good for that.
I'll make a motion to enter public hearing for the purpose of soliciting public input on amending the consolidated fee schedule regarding adjusting user fees for the Barn Community Center and additional garbage cans.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in public hearing. If anybody would like to come up, you're welcome to. Seeing none, we will move on and close our public hearing. If I can get a motion.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are closed our public hearing and move back to our regular session. We will move on to item 8, which is action on resolution 12-2025, amending the consolidated fee schedule regarding adjusting user fees for the Barn Community Center and additional garbage cans. Open for questions on that from the council. If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Yes. What,
Yeah.
Are they not at the main door?
Yeah, they were over at the community center door.
4 people going for the door. Look at that.
They just wanted to leave.
Now look at that level of service right there. Yeah, that's amazing.
high level.
Okay.
What does everybody think about the proposed fees? Do you think that's adequate? think we should raise it a little bit, so we're not raising it very often. That's one of the questions I had was just,
Specific to Green Farm Community Center?
yeah.
Okay.
I think our city manager posed the question whether the fee for the all-day rental was within a range that is compatible with what you're thinking. Any concerns with that?
I like it as is. I think it's nice.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Councilmember Saunders? You have a
I,
thought?
I was wondering if, I can't find that particular paper. What was the all-day fee?
700 for a resident,
$700.
1170 for
All right.
non-resident.
I think that's fine. I was wondering more on the hourly, if we ought to just move that up so that we're not. I mean, I was thinking maybe 70 an hour. I think we have it at 65, is that right?
60.
60? I think the average was 68. Is that right?
Yes, so it is right.
Which would be kind of a weird number to go to. So I was just thinking we round that up. And then maybe we're not changing it as often.
You rounded up to 70.
Maybe a little more right now. Yeah, round it up to 70.
Well, that would just be an open question, I guess, to the council, what you'd like to do with that.
I'm fine not, but it was just a question. See how everybody feels. Yeah. Okay. Go
Any
with
other-
that then.
Any other changes? If
I think
not,
it's good.
I'm ready for a motion.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 12-2025, amending the consolidated fee schedule regarding adjusting the user fees for the Barn Community Center and the additional garbage cans.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this particular resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. Thank you for that. We'll move on to item 9, public hearing for the purpose of soliciting public input on adopting the tentative budget for 2025 and 2026 budget. Before we go into that, is there any discussion that we'd like to go over on this, Mr. City Manager?
I would just mention for the public who may be online or visiting, I would just say that the council spent about 3 hours, I think it was last Tuesday, going over the budget. And so there's not much more to add. I'm happy to answer questions. Just for their information, the general fund in its aggregate is $10 million as far as proposed anticipated revenues and expenses. The capital projects fund is 12.3 million, and the storm drain fund is 637,000. And so otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And there is information in the packet for those members of the public who wish to seek more
Yes.
detailed information.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, anything else from the council before we go into a public hearing? Okay, I'm ready for a motion to move to public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are now in public hearing for the purpose of soliciting public input on adopting the tentative budget for 2025, 2026 budget. Is there anyone that would like to come forward or have any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, we will move out of public hearing. If I can get a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on closing the public hearing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're now out of public hearing. We will move to item 10, action on resolution 22-2025, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025, 2026 for the general fund, capital projects funds, cemetery fund, and the stormwater fund. So it's open for the council for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I did forget to mention, so I've been working with Amy Davies to make changes based on discussions that occurred at our workshop where we talked about the budget, which notably included eliminating the generator project and then reducing the overall expense for the covered parking. And that was included in the memo, but the actual budget spreadsheet will need to be adjusted. So just know that if you approve the tentative budget, it was with that intent, and we will make those changes and attach it, or any other changes that you might have in the course of your discussion and ultimate decision.
Excellent. Any questions or concerns from the council?
I wanted to discuss the softball field, baseball field. And Sean, do you know, is everything else, does the scoreboard work? Is the office above, is everything working? Is there something else we should be spending money on right now instead of doing the diamond dust?
Well, this year we did, it did fund the scoreboard replacements. And so they're in the process of doing that right now.
They're not, because the other day they weren't on. I just wanted to make sure that we are.
I think they're ordered and have arrived or will arrive, and I think they're working on the installation. But so that's going to be done this year.
Okay.
And to answer your question, really, it's really at your discretion on if you would like to see those, that type of soil, added. You could also do potentially just one diamond to see how you liked it. We've heard good reviews, and we feel like overall it's going to make the rec program better and the fields better. And a lot of it's played on the infield. A lot of the game is. So again, whatever you decide and think is within the city's best interest, and it could be just a timing issue too. It could be something that you want to maybe consider in the future, but not now. All those themes would be appropriate. Of course.
I totally agree that we would like to get our fields, in top shape. And I was just wondering if we have looked at everything else. I know we had asked about Wi-Fi music. Do we have Wi-Fi music in the little thing about the ball field?
Yeah, the score. Well, we're working on, one of the proposals in the budget is to get Wi-Fi. I think there is there is
That's
Wi-Fi.
right. It is, okay.
Yeah, but I think there is Wi-Fi at the country park now to some degree. I think they were going to try to enhance the coverage or make it better, but I don't have the specifics on that.
I was just wondering if there's some things we should do before we go forward with the diamond dust. And I don't know, what does the council think about doing one field and seeing if it's something that we agree that should be on all fields rather than just funding all fields at one time? Do we know how much one field would be?
It's 14,000, I think, a field.
So that was just a question I had. Have we done everything that we can to make the fields what we want them to be now?
Yeah, and I do think there's more work to come. Obviously, I think the lips weren't identified, but they were also going to rework the sprinkler system. I think this would be the start of a concerted effort, to enhance those ball diamonds and make sure that they're maintained. I think you started the process in part by, investing in some equipment that made it a little easier. This dust or dirt would further allow that because it doesn't solidify to a point that it takes heavy machinery or a more aggressive approach to maintain it and stir the dirt, to loosen the dirt up, if that makes sense, which is part of the problem now. I mean, there's several different contributors, but the fact that you can use a mat drag rather than an L drag and displace the dirt and move the dirt, to essentially where the infield and outfield meet, has been a contributing factor into the maintenance issue that we have now. and the deterioration of of those fields. So it will, that investment would help, help that issue.
I've been concerned with that as well. It did take a while to get scoreboards working and get other amenities working, the speaker system. They addressed the inside of the building that was deteriorating quite a bit. But I also feel like the fields just aren't up to that level yet, to where it might be something we might want to delay until the field gets a little bit more, I don't know, maintained. The grass on third base, if you went over and looked at it, it's pretty bad. And I think that's why, if we could get some of the grass growing again and get the field looking better, the field in general, the grass part, it will help too, to put a foundation down that we can put that diamond dust down. So I think in my opinion, I just felt like we were a little premature in doing that. And then if we can get maintenance to make sure that the maintenance is good on the park, I think it will really improve, and we could do it at a later date. And the machinery would all help that we have. I think right now, if we continue doing the maintenance the way we do, it's just going to do the same thing to the diamond dust because it's lighter than the dirt. So those are some thoughts that I had on that.
I think it would be beneficial to put it down, or maybe it's just one field, like Kim's suggesting, like we've made these investments and we just continue to do something to help build it every year. I think it's helpful. I mean, you want our facilities to look nice, and they need maintenance, like the mayor's saying. But I think as you put this down, and it just just beautifies the field. So
One question I'd have, do you know for sure, Sean, if it would be done this year, or is it going to be done for next year?
Well, I think it's going to be done. Well, part of it was they were trying to actually get the lip removed, and I needed to find out because they had someone lined up. He was coming from Nephi to help facilitate that.
they did that today.
Did they do it today? Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that was getting done. I think Roy is going to be good enough to allow us to use a machine going forward, that a specialized piece of equipment to continue to do that on the sports park. So part of what was being done today is to do the first fields, and so that the rec department could understand how best to do it, based on watching and participating in that process with this contractor. So so they will be done. It sounds like they are done now. Sports park will probably be done next year. And the sprinklers, they talked about doing like this next upcoming year, I think, once the season was done.
I was just thinking, since it's so expensive, that we might want to just try on one field and then see, how it works before doing all. But I have no more baseball players in my family, so I don't know how well it works.
I am in favor of moving forward, doing all three fields. My experience out there with my daughter, the times it rains heavy and it gets so muddy that they have to cancel all the games is a bummer for the kids. And then for James trying to
Gotta
reschedule and get
reschedule.
everybody out there, it's a mess. And if this product eliminates that because it's able to drain through it and doesn't create mud, that's huge. And if we can get the aesthetics of the place much better, I think it's expensive up front, but I think it's going to be very nice for all our residents to use that facility. So I'd be in favor of all three.
One of the questions that I fielded recently was on just the overall maintenance of some of the parks that we're taking on. Do we feel like we're staffed enough in parks to keep up with not only what we have, but what we've what we've recently added and will be adding with as Poulter gets finished? Somebody mentioned and I don't know whether it's accurate, I haven't been over there, but the weeds and green farm, since the city has taken over, are getting back out of hand. And so my first thought is well, maybe we don't have the staff to keep up with it. And so I think that goes to the mayor's point on the grass fields, how how well we're able to maintain that and just the parks in general.
Yeah, I would say the mayor and I talked about that today, that very issue, and it's something we're ongoing evaluation. You know, we're trying to gather data. You know, there is a tendency from Brock's perspective to make sure that he doesn't overstaff because it's some of the work is seasonal. At least what the concern he's reported back to me. But I do think I would generally say that we're probably understaffed would be my hunch, and we're trying to build up a better understanding of these added facilities and what that means. And to that end, you know, Brock worked with city staff to essentially itemize out all the different types of landscape within our city facilities. We were trying to assign, we didn't get this far through the budget process, but we were trying to assign man hours associated with maintaining all these various types of landscapes and really sort of back into a number that would help us understand what the appropriate staffing level is. So it is an ongoing effort, but I do think you can see that we are struggling and we'll probably continue to struggle until we really fine tune what staffing is needed and what changes we need to make in order to have, have those resources to meet the demand.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Sounds like you're on the path to, figuring out what's needed, which I think it is great. That'll help us understand, what's needed in the budget going forward. So,
Sean, what kind of maintenance will we have at Poulter Pond? What will that be? Will it be mowing?
I do think mowing, I think they're also going to, it's grass and native vegetation that they're trying to reestablish. So part of that's going to be being really vigilant on, especially as the grass develops over time, spraying broadleaf and trying to make sure that, the bad vegetation is eliminated and allowing some of the native vegetation that we're hoping to reestablish actually occur. So that's one of the issues. We'll have a restroom, which does require some ongoing maintenance, playground. There will be a small area that's contemplated for manicured turf and a pavilion. So, and relative to the actual pond itself, I don't have a great understanding. I know they're going to be monitoring water levels and different things like that in the aerator, but I think there's some things that are left to be learned and understood as we go through.
And this is on another subject, but I got a lot of compliments about the fence at Holmes Estates. People were really excited that that was put in. It looks great. And that's one thing that I've heard a lot of concerns about. So
Yeah.
you can thank them for that subdivision. They are really pleased with it.
Glad to hear that.
That was off topics.
Okay. All right. So, if we want to try and move forward with that, across the board, we can. I also, am concerned about the bucking chutes a little bit. We talked about this today with staff. I took some pictures and went over and looked at it yesterday. I should have sent them out to the council so you could see it if you haven't been over there, but some of them are bent. They need some work. They apparently fix them quite often, but the hinges on there, some of them are bent and some of them where the pole gates, the pole levers have been bent because they swing the gates out and they hit the other units, and they're really weak little units that are on there, but they're easily fixed and so forth. But I kind of felt like that was another item on there that if we need to delay that, we wouldn't have anything available for West Haven Days this year. It would be for next year, but the repair on those could actually happen again if we needed to delay that. But I just kind of felt like those two items on there that produce about $100,000 worth of revenue the city could maybe try and utilize in a different area until we get maintenance up to date on the ballparks, and they could just continue doing what they've been doing on those. I didn't see anything unsafe. It's just that when you have a bull or a horse jump up on top of the gate, it bends it. And that maintenance part is again, what is part of what we need to make sure that we maintain. If we buy brand new ones and the same thing happens, it's going to bend those too. So if they're not maintained, they're going to deteriorate as well pretty easily. So
How
That was
old
just
are
my
they? Do
thoughts.
we know how long they've been there?
they've been there a long time.
30 years.
Yeah, long time. But they're still in good shape. They've been painted recently and they're still actually in pretty good shape. The rollers and everything, I think Garrett said he just replaced the rollers in the pins when you let them in, those were replaced in there just recently. The deck where the cowboys and cowgirls get on to get on the bulls and horses, that's all been done. Was it 5 years ago, he said?
Mhm.
And it's still in really good shape. So there's, it's not devastating over there. It's not an unsafe thing, I think, overall. It's just,
Didn't Brock mention though that the stock contractors had concerns with it? And that's why he was
it's maintenance.
bringing it.
Yeah, it's mainly maintenance of them.
He did say that in the meeting.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, looking at it, I've been around that most of my life and we went over and kind of played with the gates and stuff. I didn't see any really major issues except for 5 and 6, chute 5 and 6 are the ones that are bent the worst. So, but again, it's just a review. If it's something that the council wants to move forward with, that's fine. But I think we just need to maintain these facilities a little bit better and make sure the foundation is there so that we don't have continued dilapidation of some of these pieces of equipment we got over there. So
But it sounds like they're already maintaining it
they are. and
regularly. So
They said that they could do that again this year. And that they will have to do it again this year. Because we won't have new chutes for sure, but $65,000 for bucking chutes is a lot of money. I did price them and different things. The ones they're looking at are probably some of the least expensive ones through Powder River. The preferred one, like we have in the roping chute that we replaced last year, preferred is the most expensive, and they would run closer to 85,000. So they did look at the different costs that they had. But again, if you want to stay and move forward with it, that's up to the council. Either way, I just wanted to bring those two items up because we did kind of look into those as a little bit of a cost savings that we could have, that we could apply towards other things within the city. But I'm all for making sure that we got a safe situation with both entities. And I do just worry a little bit about spending money before we get the maintenance up to par on those so that when we lay those down, we don't have the same thing happen. $42,000 worth of dirt's a lot, to have damaged again. So those are just my concerns that I wanted to share with the council.
if we are to wait for another year, you're putting it out to West Haven Days, right? We wouldn't have it for the next year either.
Mhm.
So.
Yep.
Pushing it down the road still makes it not viable for, you know what I mean? Not till the
But we
third
use
West
them,
Haven Days.
we use them once a year.
But I think we have opportunity to use them more when we have
actually
Westfield.
do.
When we have Westfield here, they may say, hey, can we do high school rodeo in the arena? And this facility might get utilized more if we would be open to that. And that's, you've talked about that this is a
You bet.
crown feature of the city. We want to maintain it like the parks. We want people to enjoy it. I mean, we put a whole lot of money into the bleachers that we use once a year, just like you're talking about the bucking chutes. So,
Well, the bucking chutes are a little different. We don't have people using the bucking chutes that often. But we do have youth rodeo opportunities that could come into the city. And that would be great, but they'll still come whether we have the new or old chutes. But it's up, again, if you want to put new ones in, we definitely can. I want to make sure too that when we do the chutes in there, that we do have, it'd be nice to have the announcer stand over top of the chutes like they're supposed to be at a rodeo, so the announcer can look down and communicate better than with just the mics that we have at the rodeo. Those are minor features that can make a major difference in the rodeo, but those are some things that we want to make sure too that are maintained and taken care of as well. Like I say, if you want to move forward with them, I'm absolutely great with that. You guys are the ones that make that decision. I just wanted to bring that up as well.
I mean, I understand the concern and definitely I like saving money. I think that if they've been there 30 years, it's not unreasonable to replace them at this time. So I guess I'd be in favor of moving forward on the chutes. I don't understand the baseball playing field, the dirt enough to know if the current situation's, a lack of maintenance or if it's just what happens, regardless of, maybe you can answer that. Maybe you're more familiar with that.
I think it's just, we've got some young, group of people, and we have people that are assist with things, and they take the four-wheelers and drag the thing, and they maybe go a little too fast and dig up
You create the berm.
and I think it's a maintenance issue. When you say something like that?
Yeah, I think it started with as a maintenance issue, and
Yeah.
I would agree. And I think in part, I think what this buys you potentially is when you invest in a machine that allows you to do a mat drag, and Brock's saying that with that piece of machinery, he doesn't necessarily let younger, inexperienced operators use it. So the idea is that they're going to have more experienced operators, but the material might require, this diamond dust supposedly doesn't require that aggressive of a drag or an implement to essentially break up the material. And then, as Brian said, it's supposed to drain quicker. So I think those are the
So do you feel like we'd be
benefits.
able to adequately maintain it going forward to kind of keep the problem from happening, or would it just eventually happen no matter what?
Well, I would say, I mean, the only reason why I hem and haw a bit is because one, we haven't used it. I mean, these are, I've
Test,
used
right?
it. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it used in other cities that I've worked for, and I think it did make a difference. And I went out there, the request to revisit and make a concerted effort to improve the baseball diamonds. And I know we did scoreboards last year, but I just sort of suspected that our fields needed some attention. And when I walked out there, it was sort of what I anticipated, because it's a pretty common issue to have lips created over time. I think that's certainly the goal and objective that Brock and I have talked about is bringing those fields to a better representation of the city. And when I've seen fields renovated, even in the small town that I worked with previously, there was a lot of use. Baseball tournaments occurred and other things, and they became more playable. And for all those reasons, they became once again sort of a valued amenity in the community. And I think that's one thing that we should look towards doing, is obviously we add to our amenities, but to the mayor's point, maintain the amenities that we have and make them look really good the best we can. And that is the city staff's objectives to do. And this certainly, I think, would help that. But I can understand the need to discuss it, and everyone's points are well taken. So.
Well, I would agree with Councilmember Swap that if we can still use it in the rain and alleviate the need to reschedule, I think that is a big thing, rather than having to reschedule a whole night's worth of games for some time else. So I see the point for it. I see the need for it.
Now, on that line item, it was 14,000 per field just for material costs. Are our staff going to put that in? They doing all the work?
Yeah, the quote that we got was the 14,000, so I can't say for sure how it's going to be applied, if that's included or not, but I know that was the budget number that we received, and which is what we put into the budget.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I ask about the bucking chutes as well, because sometimes we purchase things and then we have this huge cost to install, but they said that they could put them in.
Okay.
So that would be their requirement. I didn't hear anything about the diamond dust, whether they were installing it. I would assume they'd probably dump it
Mm.
there, and because you'd have to have a skid steer in there to clean off what's there.
Maybe take some of the level of the soil down that's there now to add that diamond
Yeah,
dust.
because I think they're adding 4 to 6 inches or
That's
something
what
like
they
that.
said.
So,
Yeah, this is for material costs only in here, so we'll assume staff's taking on that task.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question on streetlights. I don't know if that was discussed or not, but on page 42, budget for $82,000 for these developer-required streetlights and city-initiated streetlights. Are you able to speak to that at all?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah, on page 42, the streetlights, there's
Uh-huh.
the developer-initiated streetlights and then city-initiated.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Give us some context on what the city-initiated ones would be?
Sure. Yeah, those would be ones that maybe residents bring to our attention as potential areas where they're, living in their neighborhood and they feel like there's a safety issue or a concern, so they reach out to the city and request those. In some cases, we identify those. There's in that same general area, there's a narrative about city staff having conversations with Rocky Mountain Power to move to energy efficiency lighting. They were going to share their GIS file with us, their shape file. And so what that allows us to do is see, it's a mapping software that allows us to understand where streets are located or where streetlights are located. And just in their review, they felt like there were some major streets that might benefit from having streetlights. So sometimes city staff might identify the need to have a street light in a particular location. And so those would be the city-initiated types of street lights.
Or do we have any policy or directive on how those would be chosen? I mean, there's a lot of neighborhoods that like the dark. And so for one neighbor to say we need a
Yeah.
street light and also they get street lights, just curious if we're going to put something together that guides us.
Good question. I think there's a standard, generally speaking, and Ed could probably speak to it. If I misspeak, he can correct me. But it's essentially, at the end of cul-de-sacs, going forward, as part of the subdivision process, as an exaction, as a condition of approving their development, we require the developer to install streetlights at the end of the cul-de-sac, at intersections, and I think at mid-blocks greater than 300-foot spacing. And
That's for all new development, correct?
that's for new, right?
New-
So,
yeah.
I know there's areas that don't have them, and I think it would be relegated to an intersection scenario where someone feels like it's just too dark, for safety.
No, there's several intersections that could definitely use them. Just want to make sure that we understand as we're choosing through existing subdivisions that we have just a foundation of why we're choosing, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say this, I mean, I think you bring up a great issue of, and maybe there's a policy that should surround that on how we, do it, or how the process for evaluating for city staff and deciding, when to install those streetlights. At this point, it's more based upon a request by a citizen and then city staff, concurring with what they're concerned about. If you want something more than that, we could certainly, look to try to create a policy that would give a little bit more structure to the process.
I think that'd be good. I mean, just to visit the rest of the city as well on the areas that absolutely need it. Along 4,000, it's very difficult to turn left or against traffic and you don't know which lane the car's in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
It's tough.
We do have some requests with UDOT to look at some intersections on 4,000, particularly Salt Point area and some of those other intersections, which for whatever reason were not installed at the time of the subdivision approvals.
Mhm.
We also had a similar request and we're putting a light up on Midland and Canterbury, also based on some resident concerns. But again, that was UDOT road, so they had to concur to put that light in. But to the city manager's point, generally speaking, with regard to new subdivisions, we try to do them at the main entrances, cul-de-sacs, like he said, and typically, a typical spacing for streetlights based on the standard height and wattage that we typically see in cities is about 300 feet. There are, I hate to use the word standards, quote unquote, for what average lighting levels should be on sidewalks and roads and things like that. They're more guidelines for the most part than hard standards. And we tend to stick to those more in commercial applications, but there are residential applications for things like that also.
Okay.
But if you have any other areas you want us to look at, just please let me know and we'll
All
look
of
into them.
4,000, up and down the whole thing, but yeah.
And I also know that, I think from what I understood from the past, there's been different policy ideas from previous councils about lighting levels and areas like that too. So I think that also played into how some of the streetlights were installed in different parts of the city.
Yeah, I recall we had a dark sky initiative
Mhm.
conversation. That's
So,
contradictive, but yeah.
Well, we are not a dark sky, but we
No,
try
we're
to
not.
do what we can to keep the lights pointed down, for sure.
Yes.
Hey, further questions?
I didn't have any more.
I
Okay. Okay, well, ready for a motion?
What was the reduction on the covered parking? Was that just the budget amount that we need to call in the motion?
I think we reduced it to 20,000. It was essentially 1,300 a parking stall. Let me look real quick.
Yes. I think that's correct.
I think it came out to 20,000 and change. Oh, Amy?
Yeah, Sean, it was initially 41,600 and it was reduced to 20,800. So by half.
Thank you. Who wants to try the first motion?
I'll move to, do we need to,
We probably need to have a quick conversation. So the ones right now, so the generator's getting scratched. The parking's reduced to 20,800. Ball diamond,
Okay.
1, 2, or 3. I prefer 3.
I would go with 3 as well.
Leave it as it is. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Bucking shoots. I'm okay leaving bucking shoots. Okay, I think we're good there. So then it's just the covered parking and the generator.
There you go, Ryan.
okay, I'm going to attempt it.
Generator's already changed, right? out of
Well,
this?
No, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it was changed in the memo and represented that we were going to make the change in the tentative budget. The actual spreadsheet that's attached does not reflect that change. So Amy, based on tonight's discussion, and what we'll attach, if you approve it as such, the correct spreadsheet or budget spreadsheet that shows those changes.
So when we make the motion, can we just say with the attached spreadsheet, or do we need to mention that the generator's been scratched and that the covered parking's been
You
reduced?
probably want to make
Just
that
mention
in-
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the motion.
All right, I'm going to try it. I'll move to approve action on resolution 22-2025, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2025, 2026 for the general fund, capital project funds, cemetery fund, and stormwater fund, with the removal of the generator project and the reduction in covered parking cost for the city offices to $20,800.
Second.
Got it in.
You did. She tied. Give it to her.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We can argue about who's second.
It's to-
Any further discussion from the council on the tentative budget? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And thanks for your recommendations on that. It's always difficult to make sure we get everything right on there the best that we can. Let's move on to item 11, advice and consent of one West Haven Special Service District Board Member appointment submitted by myself, Mayor Vanderwood, to fill the remainder of one four-year term. The new term will be from April 2nd of 2025 through December 31st of 2025. And went through quite a few people to talk to about this. We want to make sure we're picking a really good, diverse group of people. And the name that I came to present to the council through advice and consent is Alicia Maragoni. She's lived in the city over 12 years, and she has a really great resume and a lot of, brings a lot of excitement towards this position. So that's who I would submit for this position to fill Brent Warren's spot that was on the board. Any questions or concerns from the council? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I would make a motion to provide advice and consent for Alicia Maragoni for the West Haven Special Service District Board member from April 2nd, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this appointment? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I will contact her and let her know that she will get started on that. We'll get her started within her training and everything. We'll move to item 12, action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. Action on ordinance 03-2025, rezone from A2 to R2, approximately 2817 South, 2700 West. And this is for Caleb and Chastity Isom. You guys present? Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Chastity Isom, 2817 South, 2700 West, West Haven.
Okay, it is you. Go ahead.
Caleb Isom, 2817 South, 2700 West, West Haven, Utah.
Okay, thank you.
Just kidding.
Yeah, you must live close there. But it kind of sounds like maybe you're building another house. Okay, go ahead with what you want to talk to the council about.
Oh, I don't even know what, like, we were here, we thought we got approved for the rezone. Is that not the case?
So you went through planning commission, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now you're in front of the council. We have to approve that.
Okay, okay.
So just tell us what you're planning on completing on your property.
So we want to, it will be a flag lot, essentially. So up the north side of our property, we just want to separate the back half acre to be able to sell that lot and it be buildable.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the council?
I don't have any questions. I think that they're entitled to the rezone because they fit that. I don't know that the flag lot will fit there, but that's to be determined at a future point. There's
Steven like has measured it all out and has told us that we meet all the qualifications for the flag lot.
I think he's only done that digitally. You know, if you come out,
Yeah.
that will be different because there are storm drain or something on one side and there's something else on the other side and it's raised. Like you couldn't put a driveway over that. So if that can be lowered and be flat to the ground, then probably.
What part?
That's not for this discussion. I think they're okay for the rezone, but we'll see when it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a reason why Stephen put a very specific motion in? For us to
Actually,
say?
Stephen and I wrote the report together and yeah, it was whether or not you guys wanted to do rezone because there's been questions before about splitting lots.
Mhm.
So that was why.
So as far as the way that it was worded here, is that any different than how Councilmember Saunders just said it? Is there an advantage one way or the other?
Did he read?
He read number 1.
Did you read that?
No, I just
Yeah, I thought- I
went
think
off
you
of
just
the
referenced, yeah.
agenda.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just curious if there's something
on.
specific in that wording.
I,
No, I mean, other than just having a finding, both of these different motions have findings attached to them. And so that was why they were written the way they were, so that in
So,
case you wanted to recommend denial, that there's a finding.
Okay.
And
Understood.
if you wanted to prove it, we'd like to have the finding in there. Just
Do you want me to restate that then?
if you're gonna go with number one, then yeah, I'd rather just
Read
have
it the
you.
way she wrote it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion to that the city council approves Caleb Isom and Chastity Isom rezone application parcel number 1509200054 located at 2817 South, 2700 West, West Haven, finding the application's request to rezone from A2 to R2 conforms with the general plan.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion from the council? Okay, let's do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Swap,
Aye.
and Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, you're all set.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion that we move agenda item 19 up to now so that Dan can have his agenda item and not have to sit through the whole
I think he
rest?
likes it. I think he likes being here. Move him in front of Ed?
I don't think he likes us all that much.
Well, if the council wants to do that, you're welcome to do that. You okay?
Yep.
Very good. We'll move on to item 19, action on resolution 26-2025, memorandum of understanding between Weber County School District and West Haven City for the placement of a shipping container to store emergency response equipment.
Yay.
Mr. Tanner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 15 plus years ago, the Weber County Emergency Management put together what they call mass casualty supplies in sheds located throughout the county. Rocky Mountain Junior High was the recipient of one of those sheds. After becoming emergency manager, I was aware of that shed.
It was a
And
sad shed, I just have to say. It was a very sad
It was,
shed.
I went over and saw the condition of the shed, and you can see from the pictures, it's been attempted to be broken in several times. It has really just shown a lot of wear on it. The roof leaks, the walls are peeling apart. It needs a good everything. But as we look at the cost of refurbishing it or replacing it, it became clear that just refurbishing it just means we're going to be back and doing the same thing again pretty soon. And so we looked at entertaining putting something a little more solid, something they can't break into, something that doesn't require the upkeep and maintenance that a wood shed would require. After discussion with the district, their operations manager, and the school itself, and with Weber Fire, the school gave us permission to go ahead and replace that unit with what they call a once-used shipping container. Once used means that it's only been used once, so it's in pretty good condition, but at a considerably better price. It's like when you buy a new car, it depreciates the second you drive it off the lot. Same type of thing. So we were able to buy the container at a better price than buying a shed and having somebody come assemble it and replace it with something we'd have to replace again. So based on that conversation, we were given a verbal approval from the property manager. So after that approval, staff and city attorney thought that it would be best if we were to put a formal memorandum of understanding in place so that both parties would, understand their respective responsibilities. So the MOU for short has been finalized. They do have a signed copy of it from Superintendent Butters. And so the staff would recommend adopting Resolution 26-2025 to give the city manager approval to sign the MOU on the city's behalf.
So just saying that when I was assigned the emergency manager and went over and looked at this poor sad shed. Everything in there had been destroyed. I mean, we had a bunch of supplies in there that were no longer useful. So in this case, we have a very good shed and we will keep it maintained and we will be able to keep that safe.
Absolutely.
So
The container is it has the security devices on it so that it can't be broken into. The lock is actually covered by a cover, so you really can't even get bolt cutters in there to cut the lock off. But the container being a double steel, it's just not going to get broken into, and obviously watertight. So we're not going to have the issues we have. The concern is obviously there's equipment in there that could be stolen, generators, lighting, things we want to make sure we protect. We were able to pull the generators out and have them tuned up because they hadn't been started in quite a few years. And so, part of the agreement with MOU was that they allow us access to go and once we get those back in there, that we're go in and start them up, make sure they're out running, making sure that they're prepared so that when something does happen and they need to be used, that they're ready. So, so this will be a better, obviously fit. It'll last longer. It'll protect those supplies and that equipment for 20 years.
I think
hopefully.
one of the issues that we ran into before was principals were changing and pretty soon nobody really even knew whose it was or what it was for. So I think formalizing it with a memorandum of understanding is a really good idea.
Absolutely.
Are you sure you just don't want to paint the shed?
No,
It'll
I don't know
secure
that it would be even, it's like
coats.
plywood. It
coats.
just
Two
kind of-
coats and it'll keep
it's
everybody
very-
out.
Don't give me that heart attack, Mayor.
Okay.
Don't give me that heart attack.
How big is that container? Is it the 40 or is it shorter?
The container is 20 foot by 8 foot by 8.5.
Also, it's a short one.
So it's more rectangular than square that we have there. Fit tight against the building. It'll look nice. It's a tan color, so it's a nice earth tone.
Well, and
color.
we can build shelves up, can't we? Will we be able to, functionalize the inside so
Yes.
that things
Yeah,
aren't sitting?
Because
on
right now the
ground?
current shed does have shelving and we plan to reuse that shelving.
Okay.
To help us
Oh,
store
okay.
height.
Yeah.
So we're just going to remove the shelving, put the container in and go ahead and attach the shelving in and reorganize it because obviously it's a different shape, but to be able to get everything in so that it's functionable, easy accessible.
It's been a long time coming, so thank you, Dan.
It is, we're going to have a little prayer before we tear down that shed.
Ribbon cutting. Let's
Quickly
do
retire.
ribbon cutting.
Yeah, I'm sure it
We
has
just ribbon
life
cut.
Yeah,
Oh,
on June
whatever that
2nd,
left in it that we can sell.
on June 2nd in the morning, if you've got any frustration, you get out, come on over. We'll be tearing it down on June 2nd.
I think it'll be great.
So
Sell tickets. Okay. Anything else from the council on that? That sounds like a pretty good plan. Okay, we need to put this into action on here, so I'm ready for a motion.
I would be happy to move that we approve resolution 2625, a memorandum of understanding between Weber County School District and West Haven City for the placement of a shipping container to store emergency response equipment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this resolution? All right, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. You're good to go. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll now move back up to item 13, action on resolution 15-2025, amended local transportation funding agreement between the city and Weber County regarding the 1800 South, 1900 West intersection realignment project. Mr. McNoyne.
Thank you, Mayor. The first resolution has to do with amending an agreement the city has with WACOG regarding funding for the 1800 South, 1900 West intersection. And essentially, this is just allowing, or WACOG has agreed to shift the source of the funding on the county side from corridor preservation funding to sales tax funding. And that just gives the city a little bit more leeway and in terms of how we acquire property and things we can do for the overall scope of improvements for the project. This is just more of an administrative action right now.
Okay. Any questions for Ed on this?
So it doesn't look like it's in the same place where it was before. Has it changed? Shifted more to the north?
That was, we had spoke at one point that we were considering different alignments for the road. This was one of the alignments considered. It may not be the final alignment. This has
Okay.
more effect this is more about how the county sorts out their funding from the
So
county side.
it's
It has nothing to
not-
do with the actual scope or the technical layout of the project.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Well, this is kind of mine as well. So I will move to approve Resolution 15-2025, the amended local transportation funding agreement between the city and Weber County regarding the 1800 South, 1900 West intersection realignment project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Call, Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
and Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
So we're still
Motion
working
carries.
on getting the land. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We'll move on to item 14, action on resolution 16-2025, the formal cancellation of agreement regarding funding of the Midland Drive Corridor Preservation Project between the city and Weber County.
And Mayor, I'd also add that the next resolution, they're sort of part and parcel. So the next two resolutions have to do with amending our original funding request with WACOG for the 2700 West project. Several months ago, we had come to the council and explained about the cost overrun we saw based on the utility phase of the project and the extra cost incurred for land acquisition. And we had submitted a budget modification of around $800,000 to WACOG, which they approved under two conditions. One was that the city would have to increase a match. And the other thing the city agreed to was that several years ago, WACOG funded the city around $500,000 or $600,000 that was supposed to be a pass-through to UDOT for a anticipated project on Midland, which never came to fruition. So the WACOG was going to basically release that funding for something else, but they'd apply it towards our request for the modification to the budget. So this is the first resolution is agreeing to cancel that original money that was earmarked for UDOT. And then the second would be to modify for the increase in the budget amount and increasing the city's match of an additional $179,597.
Any questions from the council on that?
Can we make a motion to approve both of those as long as we list both of those since they're kind of related, or do we
I would do it one at a
It's
one
time.
at a time? Okay.
You have a question, Councilmember Call?
No, I said they should be separate.
No.
Um,
Any other questions or concerns? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 16-2025, the formal cancellation agreement regarding funding of the Midland Drive Corridor Preservation Project between the city and Weber County.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to the next one, 15. The explanation was there. Any other discussion on that one? Council, do you have any questions on that one either? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I
on
have
that
one question.
You. Okay.
Yeah, it's on page 2 of the amended agreement. And I just wasn't 100% positive in these because it's amended, so it still says 2024. Do those need to say 2025? Or this is the original and I was uncertain, I guess, Amy. So in section B, county obligations, it
Page
says
2.
under the county obligations, it says that there's 2.6 million program for calendar year 2024.
I actually don't have a copy of the agreement sitting in front of me. I have the resolution, but I don't have the agreement. Oh, if somebody can, I apologize. One of the few times I don't have the paper version sitting in front of me.
I wasn't certain. Like this is the language that talks about, well, if we don't have the money as we promised, but this was like a copy.
Hold on just a second. I'm sorry, I wrote the resolution back at the first part of April. So read all of this back at the first part of April. So hold on just a second.
Can we set the timer?
No pressure
Minutes for
whatsoever.
public comment.
Da, da.
Yeah. Someone just,
Hmm.
do the Jeopardy.
This is the 2700 West project, correct? And it's ongoing right now. So I think it's the calendar year 2024. It gives us 2 years. They're always 2 years. And so it'd be 2026 that we need to have the funds expended by. The question is maybe the relative to the amount.
Yeah, I think that like what Sean was talking about, I think that it's okay the way that it's written. I mean, later on, it talks about this amended agreement supersedes and replaces the original dated July 19th, 2022. So I'm wondering whether or not, I mean, kind of looks like it's referencing, John, do you think it's referencing what year the, that sales tax is coming from?
Well, they always have a calendar year, a project year, that the funds are available and then it's always 2 years, that they allow you to expend it. So I think the year is correct. I was just going to try to verify the correct number.
I believed it to be right in 24, but I understood where you're coming from when I read it too, but I think it should be 24 because of the 2-year project on it.
And then you were wondering about the overall funding amount, is that right? Of just the budget, just the year, the year? Okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay. I think it is. I think we're okay as well. Any?
Fantastic.
Okay. Let's see, did we end off on did we motion on this one?
No, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm ready for a motion on the 15.
Okay. I would make a motion that we approve resolution 17-2025, amending the local transportation funding agreement regarding the 2700 West project between the city and Weber County.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Excellent. Item 16 on here, action on resolution 23-2025 for interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Weber County regarding road maintenance and storm drain services. We'll turn this over to our city manager.
Yeah, so recently, Weber County reached out to us as they were doing some maintenance work on Hooper Slough. And as you know, Hooper Slough runs through unincorporated areas of the county and incorporated areas, including ours. And so because they started, maintenance in one section and realized that it would continue on into the incorporated limits, they wanted to see if we would be willing to partner with them, and they would do the work, and we would just essentially reimburse them the expense associated with their equipment and their personnel, which were reasonable rates. Typically we budget $30 a lineal foot for maintenance, and this came in much under that. The total cost that they estimated in doing the work was, I think it was 17,000, I want to say. I'd have to verify, but it was a reasonable approach to complete a lot of work. So if you see the map, you can see the work that was done. It's attached to the staff report, and you can see what sections. In the budget document, I was just going to say there's this ongoing effort and recognition that we need to maintain those sloughs because they are the primary outfall of our stormwater system. So that aside, in making this arrangement with the county to formalize it going forward, as opportunities might present themselves with both slough or storm drain maintenance and roads, because the same issue can arise with roads, relative to a road project, a maintenance project like chip sealing. They wanted to, and they proposed entering into a formal interlocal agreement, which I know you're familiar with. We've adopted those types of agreements before, and it's just a real effective way for local governments to work together for each entity's benefit. And typically the result is because it benefits both entities, there's a benefit ultimately to our residents and the taxpayers. And so for those reasons, we feel like this is one of those arrangements that will benefit both the city and the county, and would recommend approving the interlocal agreement.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I know this is something that, dredging of that slough needs to be done pretty badly all the time. So it'll be good to get that one completed. Okay, any questions?
I just had one concern, a question. I already brought this up with Amy, and I think your opinion is that it's okay, but I just wanted to run it by everyone. On the first page in 1.01, it does mention that at the sole discretion of the county may decline to perform any requested service at any time for any reason. And I just wonder if we ought to have some clarifying language after that to say, unless the work has been agreed upon or started, because it seems to contradict like 602. And the line actually directly behind it, where the work shall be done within the agreed upon time. So to me, it reads that they could even stop work and say, we decline it, or they've agreed.
What was your first reference?
First reference is on page 1 in 1.01. Kind of the last part of that.
And
I think I read that slightly different, because the sentence before it says, upon the city's direction and request. So I read it as the city's going to ask them, and they can say, no, we don't want to do it.
And that's
Yeah, I
how I'm reading it too, is that so in 6.02, if they've agreed to do something and they fail to make the agreed upon repairs within the agreed upon time period, then that applies. But they can always say no at the beginning of, us asking to perform any requested service. And I think it's two different things. And so I I agree with Carrie. I read it a little bit differently than, I understand your concerns about not wanting them to, start something and then say, oh, this is harder than we thought it would be, and, walk away.
Yeah, the concern is like, if they're cleaning out the slough and they use that to stop parts way through and, but then we do have the,
And can
I think the
we,
indemnification goes away if they did do that. The
can we
way-
just add a clause that say you agree to a project, you have to complete the project?
I think that'd be great. And,
Yeah.
and maybe it says that. I don't know. It just seemed like it was like for any reason, at any time. That was the concern I had, was that at any time. And I thought, well, what if they've already started the project,
Well,
Yeah.
but again, my reading of it is if they've agreed to perform, that they can't just stop it at any time without having, the consequence of the indemnification clause not covering.
Sounds like
Understood.
both parties kind of almost need to agree to it to start the project.
Yeah.
And then if they fail, then it drops over to the secondary that you looked at on.
That's my understanding of,
Mhm.
of,
Yeah,
That's how I'm
because
reading it.
If they decide not to do the project, I guess would have to hire it out to do something else. But if they agreed to it.
Yeah.
To start the project.
Yeah, I can see that. It does kind of, the more I read it, feel like they're just saying, hey, we don't have to do it if we don't want to, if you request it. So,
I could see something like this coming up if it was, say the price was, we'll call it 17.5 or something. They said, oh yeah, that was way under bid. It's gonna cost a lot more. We don't want to do the project now, or we don't have time to do the
Yeah.
project.
and I could see it more along those lines, that they have equipment or something involved in a different project and they're like, we can't get to that.
yeah.
That's what I would probably think. But I think if they agree to do the project and I don't know if there's a signature, to this process to get this completed, but we do have the paperwork that says, they are the ones that should be doing this, and they've agreed to do it.
Yeah, I
But-
just don't want them to be able to, like, yep, we're gonna do that, and then we wait for them to do it, and then there's some catastrophe, and they're like, oh, we decided not to.
Do we sign a work order on those when those are done?
We did, yeah. They essentially estimated the cost and sort of the scope. And based upon that, we signed it and provided that back to
So
them.
like they can't do that under this, then I'm good.
Yeah, and especially with the 1.02, it shall be done within the time agreed upon between the county and the city. It's all of kind of 1.01 and 1.02 is that it's a mutual agreement between the two parties
Okay.
that what they're going to do and the time frame that they're going to accomplish it in.
It's a good catch.
Sounds good.
So review it, but yeah, I think we're good. Everybody else good with that?
If Amy says so. then-
You feel comfortable with it?
I do. I think one thing I was just going to add, and maybe I don't mean to belabor the point, but sometimes in agreements, there'll be a specific clause within like the miscellaneous that specifically incorporates the recitals into the agreement. And I think, and Amy can speak to it better than I, but I think some thought is that, those recitals aren't applicable. It's really everything after the now therefore that applies. And so I just looked there to see and didn't see the incorporation of the recitals. So I think they're meant more for background rather than the term. And again, maybe Amy has a different perspective on that.
Do we have anything with Weber County that basically, that we have any labor rates or hourly rates or rental of equipment if we do anything within the county?
I do not believe that we do.
Be interesting at this point in time, if they're doing stuff in our city and we are crisscrossing back and forth on things, I don't know, is it worthwhile to maybe explore that down the road? You don't have to do anything with that
I
soon, but-
think sometimes we'll do that relative, a lot of our maintenance, if it's, like a road maintenance, it's done through a contractor. And so we would probably just tell them what the unit price was or is. And I see that happen often with road projects is they essentially just tell you what the cost would be relative to the unit costs,
Yeah, because if,
of the contract.
like, I could probably say both parties, if they're already doing something on the road, just continue,
Usually,
right?
unless they,
Or, yeah, anything, it might be an advantage, like if the road, ends here and it's the county, just to keep going. Same if the other way too, if we're doing the work and they need us to just continue a little bit further.
all right.
I had a question on 8.01. Eight point oh one says the amendment can be modified, like the paid amount can be modified by the executive officers. Who are the executive officers considered to be? Just Sean?
Yeah, it would
Think
be
it-
Sean.
And it would be the chair of the county, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be the
Mhm.
chair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why would we want to have that here if we've already agreed to amounts?
In case if it needs to be modified.
A lot of
Mhm.
projects have change orders, obviously. That could happen.
And if for some reason, like one of these things is costing more per hour to run, gas prices go up, which is not unheard of, or I could see that probably is the thing that would affect the hourly rate the most is if gas prices went up. Or even like with the labor, if for some reason they did a market analysis over at the county and they increased their hourly rate, because of a market analysis, that might be another reason. May not go up a whole bunch, but it may go up, a couple of dollars per hour.
I don't really foresee us using them that often, but it's there. I don't know that we'd have probably a lot of interaction on this.
It's a 4-year agreement.
I just don't know that we would have a lot of interaction with that other than SLU and maybe a couple other projects. But it's a good point. It's a good catch too. Any other questions from the council? It's nice too that it's got the 30-day termination. I mean, if you're not happy with it, I guess you can get out of it. Okay, I'm ready for a motion if we have no other questions.
I will make a motion to approve action on resolution 23-2025 interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Weber County regarding road maintenance and storm drain services.
Don't be shy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
A reluctant
On this
second.
resolution. Any further discussion from the council on this resolution? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
A motion carries on that. All right, we'll move on to 17. This is action on resolution 24-2025 adopting Utah's legislature mandated sex-based privacy compliance plan. And we'll turn this over to Amy.
So according to the Utah State Code, we have to pass a sex-based privacy space compliance plan. And the language in this compliance plan is taken almost directly out of the Utah State Code. And it is that the purpose is to preserve the individual privacy of males and females in privacy spaces. There we are.
I like it.
Me too.
Great thing.
Any other questions?
It is one of those things that we should have done before, but didn't know whether or not the legislature is going to make changes to it. And anyway, so here we
All
are.
right.
Any other questions from the council? Yeah, everybody good? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution 24-2025, adopting the Utah Legislature mandated sex-based privacy compliance plan.
Second.
We have a lot of motions tonight. We do. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this resolution?
Nope.
Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Call.
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on that. We'll move to item 18. And this is for an action on resolution 25-2025, interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Taylor West Weaver Water Improvement District regarding work to be performed on 3300 South.
Thank you, Mayor.
Glad to have you back up here, Ed.
At the special meeting you held on the 28th, the council also awarded a contract to Staker Parsons to actually do the construction work on 3300 South, the widening part. And at the time I had mentioned that part, that at that point, we were also anticipating entering into an interlocal agreement with TWIP or Taylor West Weaver Water Improvement District.
TWW.
And
Gotta roll the W's.
yes. And this is typical of interlocal agreements we've had entered into the past on these projects. Typically, when we have big road projects, we notify all the other utility companies and see if they have any interest in doing any projects while we're doing the road work. And Taylor West Weaver had decided to undertake a project under the 3300 South, our 3300 South Road project. And what that means is that work we would have had to have done anyway with regard to the road project, whether or not they've done their project. We offset the cost of that for them to do that work under their own project. It's basically a reimbursement agreement. And don't recall the number offhand, but it was it amounts to about $102,500.
Thank you. Questions on this item? We'll have to come up with an acronym for that somehow.
We will.
We can work on it.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution 25-2025, the interlocal agreement between West Haven City and Taylor West Weaver Water Improvement District regarding work to be performed on 3300 South.
You said that really well. I'll second that.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. And
And
the
a
motion
response.
was very well said overall. Any other
A
questions
mouthful.
from the council? All right, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you for being here so long. We appreciate you
Anytime, thank you.
putting up with that. We'll move to item 20. Is there any other discussion items that we need to talk about before on this one? I heard a no.
No.
Okay. And so we'll move on to item 21, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays on that? Okay, we're good to go. And we're adjourned. Thank you very much.